Welcome to Meanwhile in History. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. Join us as we dive into the past.
Let's start with a thought experiment. Picture the largest, most impressive buildings in North America before the 19th century.
Okay, I'm thinking of maybe some early colonial structures, large churches in Mexico City, something from the Aztecs or Maya, perhaps.
All good guesses, but for nearly 800 years, the title belonged to a series of structures in what is now a remote canyon in New Mexico. We're talking massive, multi-story stone complexes with up to 800 rooms, built by a people without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or draft animals.
That's incredible. That completely reframes the technological narrative of the continent. This isn't just a collection of villages. This is an urban center. We're talking about Chaco Canyon at its zenith between roughly 900 and 1150 CE.
Exactly. And the sheer scale creates this immediate question that drives the whole story. How? And just as importantly, why? Why did this specific place in this arid, challenging environment become the architectural and cultural heart of a region the size of a modern country?
Let's go back to the beginning of this boom. Around 850 or 900 CE, something shifts in the canyon. The architecture, which had been more modest, suddenly explodes in scale and complexity. This isn't a gradual evolution, it's a quantum leap.
They begin constructing what archaeologists call great houses. These aren't just big, they are meticulously planned. The most famous is Pueblo Bonito. Construction starts around 900 CE and continues in phases for over 200 years. This wasn't a single project. It was a multi-generational commitment.
Think about that. The people who started building Pueblo Bonito would never see it finished. Their children and their children's children would carry on the work. We're talking about a structure that would eventually stand 4 to 5 stories tall and contain between 600 and 800 rooms. The East Wing alone is estimated to have required 193,000 worker hours to build.
And it wasn't the only one. There are 15 major complexes in the canyon. Chetro Kettle, another great house, was the largest by area, covering nearly 3 acres. Una Vida, one of the earliest, also has this classic D-shaped layout that becomes a Chacoan signature.
This D shape is so intentional. These aren't random collections of rooms. They're designed. They often enclose a central plaza with large, circular ceremonial chambers called great kivas, and the alignments are breathtakingly precise. They're oriented to solar and lunar cycles, including the complex 18.6-year cycle of the moon's rise and set.
This is sophisticated astronomical knowledge embedded directly into civil engineering. The famous Sun Dagger site, a spiral petroglyph precisely illuminated by daggers of light at the solstices and equinoxes, is just one example. Their entire built environment was a celestial clock.
So you have this explosion of monumental, astronomically aligned architecture built over centuries by a highly organized society. The next logical question is, how did they physically do it? What were the technical innovations that allowed them to build skyscrapers out of sandstone and wood?
Right, because physics is physics. To go 5 stories high, you need strong foundations and walls. The key Chacoan innovation was a technique called core-and-veneer masonry. Instead of a single solid wall, they built 2 parallel veneers of carefully fitted, flat sandstone slabs.
And the inside? The core?
They filled it with rubble and mud mortar. This created incredibly thick walls, sometimes 3 feet at the base, that could bear immense weight. The walls were also tapered, getting thinner as they went up, which is a brilliant and intuitive way to improve stability.
It's a composite material. Essentially, they're using different components to achieve a structural integrity greater than the sum of its parts. But even with strong walls, you need floors and roofs. And for that, you need wood. Lots of it.
And that is maybe the most astounding logistical feat of the entire Chacoan story. The canyon itself is a high desert. It doesn't have the tall, straight trees needed for the ceiling beams or vigas. They needed ponderosa pine, Douglas fir, spruce.
So, where did they get them?
From mountain forests located 45 to 60 miles away, research shows they harvested and transported hundreds of thousands of heavy logs over incredible distances. Again, with no draft animals or wheels. This implies a massive, coordinated labor force.
Wait, so we're talking about teams of people carrying massive logs for days across rugged terrain just to get them to the building site? The level of social organization required to motivate, feed, and direct that kind of labor is on par with the engineering itself. This isn't a weekend barn raising. This is state-level infrastructure mobilization.
That's the perfect way to put it. And it wasn't just for building materials. They engineered the landscape itself. They built water control systems, dams, canals, reservoirs to support agriculture in an arid environment. It was a completely engineered world.
Which brings us to the strategic why. You don't mobilize society on this scale for centuries just for housing. This was a system. What was its purpose? What was the engine driving all of this construction and organization?
The leading theory for the economic engine is something called staple finance. The idea is that the elites or ritual leaders didn't control wealth through currency, but by mobilizing surplus food and everyday goods from the surrounding population.
So, the advanced irrigation and agriculture weren't just for subsistence. They were designed to generate a surplus, which then financed these monumental public works. Farmers in outlying communities would contribute a portion of their harvest, and that food would sustain the laborers quarrying stone and hauling timber.
Exactly. Production of food was decentralized, happening in households across the region. But consumption was centralized in the canyon, likely for these massive communal projects and the rituals that sanctified them. The great houses were the focal point of this entire regional economy.
And connecting this whole system was another incredible feat of engineering, the Chacoan Road Network. We're not talking about simple footpaths. These were wide, remarkably straight roads, stretching for over 400 miles, connecting the Central Canyon to more than 150 outlier communities.
They're so straight, they often go directly over mesas and cliffs, where they built masonry ramps and stairways. They clearly weren't designed for the easiest path of travel, like a wandering trail. They were making a statement. They scream connection and order.
Which suggests they were for more than just moving goods. Maybe for pilgrimages, for moving people, for ceremonies, or for asserting central authority. And that network plugged Chaco into a much wider world. The evidence of long-distance trade is undeniable.
This is where it gets really fascinating. They've found things in Chaco that could only have come from Mesoamerica, 1,200 miles to the south. We're talking about scarlet macaw feathers, copper bells, and even residue of cacao, chocolate, in ceramic vessels.
Chocolate in 11th century New Mexico? That's amazing! And the trade went both ways. Puebloan turquoise, a highly prized material, has been found at sites in what is now central Mexico. So Chaco wasn't an isolated island of civilization. It was a major northern node in a continental trade network.
All of this evidence of central planning, labor mobilization, and long-distance trade leads to the central debate about Chacoan society. What was it exactly? Who was in charge?
One school of thought frames it as a corporate chiefdom. This model suggests a hierarchical society with a ruling elite who controlled the staple finance system, directed the construction projects, and lived in the great houses. In this view, Chaco was the political and administrative capital of a large, centrally governed state.
The monumental architecture is the prime evidence for this. You just don't get that level of sustained, coordinated effort without some form of centralized authority. Pueblo Alto, for example, a great house on the mesa top, shows evidence of being a center for processing turquoise beads, suggesting specialized production controlled by an elite.
But there's another perspective, one that's heavily informed by the views of modern Pueblo descendants. They see Chaco not as a capital of an empire, but as a special gathering place, a ceremonial center, a cathedral, not a capitol building.
In this interpretation, the great houses weren't palaces for kings. They were public architecture, used periodically by many different clans and groups who would travel there for ceremonies, trade, and to share knowledge. Power wasn't centralized in a single ruler, but was more distributed among ritual leaders and kinship groups.
This view is supported by the fact that despite the massive size of the great houses, evidence suggests a relatively small permanent residential population in the canyon itself. It might have been a place that swelled with thousands of people during key ceremonial times, but was quieter the rest of the year. The roads weren't for armies, but for pilgrims.
It's an unresolved tension in the story. Was it a hierarchical state or a collaborative ritual hub? The truth is probably somewhere in between, a unique form of social organization we don't have a modern analog for. But while this unique society was reaching its zenith, the rest of the world was far from static.
This is the Meanwhile in History moment. Let's plant a flag around the year 1050 or 1100 CE, right in the middle of Chaco's golden age. As Chacoans are perfecting their core-and-veneer masonry, what's happening elsewhere?
Let's jump across the Atlantic. In Europe, the Viking Age is drawing to a close. Leif Erikson had briefly landed in North America, in what is now Newfoundland, just a few decades earlier. A fleeting contact on the other side of the continent. But the big story in 1054 is the Great Schism, the formal split between the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, a permanent division in Christendom.
So while Chaco is building these unifying ceremonial centers, one of the world's great religions is fracturing. And by the end of that century, in 1095, that fractured world launches the First Crusade, a massive geopolitical and military event.
Now, let's go to Asia. In China, the Song dynasty is in the middle of a technological renaissance. Around 1042, a commoner named Bi Shang invents movable type printing using porcelain centuries before Gutenberg. At the same time, official texts are describing the formula for gunpowder and the use of the compass for navigation.
That's mind-blowing. 3 of the most transformative technologies in human history are emerging there. While in India, the Chola Empire is a dominant naval power, having completed the magnificent Brihadiswarar Temple in 1010 and even conquering parts of Southeast Asia with its fleet.
And in Japan, it's the Heian period, a cultural zenith where the court is dominated by the powerful Fujiwara clan. This is the world of The Tale of Genji, considered the world's first novel, a time of incredible artistic refinement.
Let's not forget Africa and the Middle East. The Ghana Empire in West Africa is a major power, controlling trans-Saharan trade routes for gold. And in Egypt, the Shiite Fatimid Caliphate rules from its new capital, Cairo, which was founded in 973. It's a major center of learning and power in the Islamic world.
So you pull back the lens from Chaco Canyon and you see this incredible global tapestry. You have architectural and social innovation in North America, a religious schism and military expansion in Europe, technological revolution in China, maritime empire in India, and powerful kingdoms in Africa. None of these places knew the others existed in any meaningful way, yet they were all simultaneously pushing the boundaries of what was possible in their own worlds.
It's the perfect antidote to a linear, region-locked view of history. The story of human ingenuity and complexity isn't a single thread. It's thousands of threads being woven at once, all across the globe. Chaco wasn't an anomaly in a quiet world. It was a vibrant, brilliant part of a world humming with change, ambition, and innovation.